Okay, good morning, guys. Today we are going to discuss about EC2 container service. We will discuss about the VPN tomorrow's session. Okay, tomorrow we will have session. ECS container service. Let us check this first. What is ECS container service? Um, by now, you know how to run Docker containers on a machine, how to install Docker containers and run, right? So here Amazon EC2 Container Service is a service where you can run Docker containers on cloud. What normally it does is it creates a cluster instance which is EC2 instance um, on your EC2, and it runs a task definition. Definition so that one container will be run on that instance. Okay. Actually, here we have three things. One is registry, and second is task definition, and third is um, cluster. Okay. First of all, we have to create one repository. Repository is nothing but saving image. Okay. So now what you have to do is you have to push your Docker image, okay, Docker image to your container, and you have to create one task definition saying how you want to run that, and third one is launching cluster. I will tell you. Okay. So now configure repository. In repository, I have to give my repository name. For example, what repository I want to create. Let me log into Docker Hub first. Okay. In Docker Hub, I have so many um, containers. So let me check HTTPD, which is for web server. This is official image of Apache web server. Okay. For example, I'm taking this. Okay. 2.2.32-alpine is the version of HTTPD. So first what I have to do is see guys, we are not doing anything. It is very simple. I'll repeat the same steps again, but you have to observe what I'm doing. Okay. HTTPD is my repository name. You can give any name. Okay. And if I hit next, it gives some commands to run. Okay. See, first thing is to install the AWS CLI and Docker, and for more information, this. First of all, you need to have Docker installed on your machine, on any machine where you run these commands. These commands is just for pushing the image to AWS. Okay, so you just need to have Docker installed and AWS CLI. So now what I'll do is I need to connect to um, my AWS account. In order to do that, first of all, I have to run this. Let me see if AWS is installed. Unable to locate credentials. So here AWS is installed, but I didn't configure any credentials. So what I have to do is I'll go to my IAM. It is a bit confusing, but you need to focus what I'm doing. Forget everything. First what I am doing is I have installed AWS CLI. Okay, so my target is to run few AWS commands here on my laptop so that it will affect on my AWS account. In order to do that, I need to give certain credentials, credentials um, so that it will connect to my AWS account. Let me check where I saved my credentials. This is for Redbird. No. So I have not added the credentials. So what I'll do is, okay. So I'll create one user. My username is my admin. Okay. So here, programmatic access. I'm selecting programmatic access. That means I need access key ID and secret key for AWS API CLI. See now, we came here so far so that all the services are interlinked. In order to run few commands for my ECS, I need to run my CLI commands. For that, you have to create one user for um, for running that commands. So now I'm selecting programmatic access. Now it gives these options, groups and all. So if I select my admin group, it has administrative access. So, and I'll go here and create the account. Here I have access key and secret key. I'm downloading the CSV, my admin, so that those keys will be in this CSV file. Whenever I need, I can refer that CSV file. So for this, I can see my secret key for the first time here on AWS console. If you want to check later, you have to check the um, that CSV file downloaded. So in order to configure, you have to type this command configure. It asks for your, oh sorry, it asks for your key. This is access key and this is secret key. Paste. So it asks for the region which you're working on. But how do you check your region? Hmm? Sorry. So IAM has no region, so I'll close this. I'll close this. And if I go to EC2, yeah, if you go to EC2, if you have any instances running here, you can check. Oh, I think one load balancer is running. I have to delete that. Just a minute. Otherwise, I'll get charged. Okay, if any EC2 instance is running, then you will get it will get reflected here. But here you see on the browser itself, I can get the region name. This is US West 2. If any EC2 is running, you can check there here itself. But I don't have that, so I'm taking it from browser. Okay, log format, anything. Now my AWS is connected from my CLI. So now I run this command. The first command from ECS. We'll check. Right. Normally, it gives a long command. As you see here, in the second step, run the docker login command that was written in the previous step. That means when we run this command, it gave another command. So this is actually a login token. We can say it's a token. So up to here, this is docker command. Copy. So this docker command will log into the registry where we have created in our ECS. Okay, login succeeded. Now, don't worry, I'll repeat this again, but uh, remember what you are doing. So here, you remember this command, docker build -dhttpd dot. This command will build a Docker image, but I'm not going to build that. I'm just going to pull from my repository. So what I'll do is, if we check Docker images, we have so many images here, Apache, etc. Yeah, HTTPD is already there in my local. Otherwise, you have to use Docker pull command to pull that. HTTPD is already there. Then I'll simply run this command. This command is to build HTTPD if you want to use any custom from Dockerfile. Okay, so I'm skipping this step because I already have my what my image ready on my system. So now I'm going to run this. But remember here, you have to mention the 2.4. I'm mentioning 2.4.1 because I may edit and change the version. Here you have to tag something like this. So what you are doing in this step is docker tag httpd 2.4 to this is my repository URL in my ECS. Okay, so if I hit enter and Docker images, I have tagged one image to this URL so that this can be recognized by AWS. Okay, so I tagged it. Now I need to push that image to my repository. So what I have to do is Docker push the repository name. So if I enter, I'm pushing it. It takes some time. Okay, so repository pushed. So my next step is, so up to now you have done, what we have done is we have created one AWS account, and if you don't have AWS CLI installed, you can go for this documentation mentioned here, and you can simply install Docker and AWS. You know how to install Docker by this time. And we just ran these commands. But remember, we didn't run step 3 command for step on step 3 because we already have that image. If you don't have image and if you want to create image from any Docker file, then you can run that. Okay. So now for now, I have pushed my uh, image into my ECS repository, and my next step would be creating a task definition. So my task definition is web server, name is web server, and the container name is HTTPD, and this is my image, but it is 2.4.1. Okay, here memory is 300 limit, that is in MB. Okay, so that is in MB, and 80 port is, this is the mapping. There are two things. One is ECS host. I'll explain it again. Okay, once it is launched, I'll explain it again, then you will understand better. So there are two things. Docker host, we have already done port mapping in our Docker session, right? So we are mapping port number 80 of Docker host to port number 80 of the container. And if you want to connect to that machine, for example, give any available port and map it. So what I am mapping is, I am mapping port number 22 of container to 12322 of host. Okay, so I am mapping this, and yeah, I am going to next step, and this is service name. I'll tell you what service is. Service HTTPD, and decide number of tasks. So how many containers you want, you have to give that number here. Okay, so here create an application load balancer, but I am not creating any load balancer here. If you want to create any load balancer, depends on your port, you can simply create your load balancer. And next, so you have to give cluster name web server. Okay, and which that cluster, which EC2 instance type you need for cluster. That depends on how many containers you are going to run on that machine. So the cluster instance is just one. And key pair. Key pair is my web, which I use to connect my container. Okay. So allow ingress from anywhere. And here I have to select one ECS role. Okay. For now, I am selecting this, and I'll give the required access to that particular role. So where do you find roles? Here. Here is my role. Okay. Otherwise, I'll create one more role. Create one more role for ECS. See here. Role to auto scaling. Role to full. Let me select one, and then ECS role. So now I have my ECS role and I'm going to check what permissions I have. So for now I want full access to ECS. So I'm going to check here. I'm not getting the arrow to see entire thing. So power user, read only. Yeah, EC2 container service, full access. So I attach this policy, full access, and detach this. So now I have full access, but depends on how you want to provide access to your user. You can create, you can attach your own EC2, role. But for now, I'm giving this. Let me go to my previous step and come again so that it will load. Uh, Normally it should load if you start completely. First, let me refresh this. Okay. My repository is already added. Okay. So now I'm creating my task definition here. This is how it looks. I have already added my repository. If you want to create a new repository, it gives you the same steps again. So now I'm going to my task definition and creating my task definition again. So my task definition name is web server, and I'm selecting none. So here you have to add your containers. So my container name is HTTPD and my image is, let me check, I need to copy that. Copy the repository URI. This is the repository URI. Okay. So I need to paste this and colon. My version number is, image tag name is 2.4.1. So I have to give 2.4.1. So here I'll give my RAM as 512. So here you need to map ports 80 of host to 80 of container, and I'm mapping 12322 of host to 22 of container port, and CPU units are 128. Okay, so these are the other options, entry points, commands to run while doing that, and working directory, environment variables. If you want to set, you can set here itself. And these are the host name, DNS, storage. If you want to mount any, volume from host machine to Docker container, you can simply provide here. And these are the other options you can try. Okay, I'm adding this for now. I'm going to show a basic version, so you can try with multiple options. There are so many options. Okay. So what I have given is, I have mapped the ports and I'm creating task definition. So now I have my task definition. right? Task definition is created. So you have done two things now. You have pushed your image to repository and you have created task definition. Task definition is nothing but the command. Uh, when we check in Docker session, what we have done is Docker run -t. We have given few options like Docker run -p, port number mapping, volume mapping, etc. Right? So that is the same thing you will mention on the task definition on this console. Now the final part is you have to create cluster and then create service. Cluster is nothing but it creates one EC2 instance, cluster name, web server. Okay, you can choose any instance type. I'm choosing T2 micro because it costs very less for me. So depends on the load and depends on the applications you are running on container and depends on how many containers you are running. You have to select your EC2 instance type. So number of instances 1 because I want to run only one instance. If you choose multiple instances, all the instances will be in cluster and they run Docker containers. Okay, here I have to select my key pair and I have to select my VPC, which VPC I want to select in, but here I want to choose my default VPC. So I'll go to my VPCs and check which one is my default. Tomorrow we will have a session on this AWS VPCs, okay? So my default VPC is, oh, it looks like default. Okay, I think this is my default VPC. So I can select a different subnet so that these will be created in different subnets. Okay, I have small doubt. Let me check whether which is my default one because security groups are given as per that. So launch instance, select anything. It's 951. So this is my VPC. Yeah, I have 3 subnets here, correct. So I can add the subnets I want. So I added all my 3 subnets. Okay. So what I have done is I have selected my VPC where I want to run this container instance. Next, security group. Security group for web server is this, so I'm selecting this. Okay, and EC2 container role. See here, now I got my ECS role. So I have selected that role and then create. That means that EC2 container will have this ECS cluster role. Okay, now it is using CloudFormation stack to create the cluster. So actually it is creating cluster and IAM policy of the role successfully attached. Now it is creating all the stuff. Okay. Now see the CloudFormation stack EC2 container service web server is resource successfully created. Now view the cluster. So your cluster is created. If you check here, the cluster is created, but no service is running and no task is running. Okay, so we will check EC2 container now. See, one instance is running. We have not created that instance here, but it got created from there. So it is still running. Okay, let it run. Let it start and we will discuss one more thing. Let me discuss that. First of all, you created one repository, okay, and you pushed your image to that repository, okay. In order to push that repository to your push that image to your repository, first of all you need to have AWS and Docker installed on one machine. Okay, it can be your laptop or it can be a cloud server. Okay, that is just for temporary purpose. If you don't have any, you can launch one instance and install AWS CLI and Docker, and you can do this and then terminate the system. Anyways, it works. So what you have done, you have pulled one Docker image from Docker Hub, and you may create your own image, and then you have push it to repository. Okay, you can push multiple versions of this same image. Okay, you can push multiple versions of same image to ECS repositories. Then you create a task definition. Task definition is nothing but how you run how you want to run your um, Docker image on this cluster container, ECS container instance. So you will mention everything, what ports to map, what volume to map, and how much hard disk you want, how much memory you want, everything you mention in the definition. Okay, and cluster it is a host instance, EC2 host instance, Docker host instance, where you run. In the backend, it creates one EC2 instance and which is already having Docker, and it runs the containers. Okay, that is it. So once it runs, once it got created, cluster got created, we have to run our own tasks. Okay, let it create. We will run our tasks. Are you able to follow me, or do you have any doubts? We are just going to run our Docker containers on AWS. That is our main goal. So please let me know if you have any doubts. Anyone? Yeah. Now this server is running. If you check whether Docker is installed or not, you can simply connect to this server and check. Now what we are going to do is, we have repository and we have task definition. Now we are going to run that task on the Docker container. Let me connect to this container so that I can show you how it works. These usernames are different from image to image, but you need to check which image you are using. Okay, if you are using Ubuntu, it is Ubuntu, but it is based on Amazon's image. You see this Amazon's image, but there the user is EC2 user. Okay, so now clear Docker PS. One container is already running, which is ECS agent. This agent helps you connect this EC2 container to ECS server, but you don't have any image yet, Docker images. Okay, you have only EC2 agent image and you are running that image, nothing else. Okay, so now we will start our work and we'll see how it behaves. Okay, so that means Docker is already installed, and we have one image which is for Amazon ECS agent, and we are running that image. So now what we have to run is, we have repository and task definition. Now you have to create one service so that it runs a task. So create service. and you will get a list of task definitions here if you have multiple task definitions. As I have only one, it is showing one. Okay, my task definition name is web server and version 1. So my cluster name is web server. So service name HTTP D1 is my service name. How many tasks you want to run? Okay, this is health check. So it is minimum health is 50, but I am keeping it 0 in order to get any alerts, because I have selected very smaller EC2 instance type. Okay, so these are the things you have to select and then create service, view service. So here in tasks I need to get, yeah, this is the service. So this is the task inside the service. Okay, so let me go back again. So this is my cluster. In my cluster, I have created one service. Inside service, you have tasks. Oh, I think it got failed. Service HTTP has started one task, but it failed. Why is it failing? So it keeps on creating, but it is failing. But it is not giving any error. Stopped. So it gave some error. You see, access denied. Cannot pull container, error. Okay. User reason this role is not authorized to perform get ECR authorized token. Okay. So let us check. Let us create a proper role for that. ECS IAM role. AWS gives the particular role in documentation so that we can follow the same role. ECS container, scheduler, auto scaling, task. But we have given complete thing, right? Managing policies. Okay, let me give the roles first. Let me edit my role. See, you need to check how I'm debugging. Okay. So normally images may have some problem and other thing. So what I'm going to do is container registry power user. What are the roles it is mentioning here? Instance role. I think we need task definition role. Not perform get authorized token on resource. Port 400 request. Okay. So auto scaling role. there must be one single role which, give me a minute, I'm checking. The full permission should work there, but I don't understand why it is not working. Give me a minute, guys. This is only a permission issue, okay? So you have to give your role properly. So let me attach this role and try. I'm attaching this policy. This policy has auto scaling, elastic load balancing for all resources. Here, EC2 authorizes security group ingress. Okay, let me try to run again. So it keep on creating one instance. Okay, let me check. Now we have that role. Now it should work this time. No, it's not working. So let me delete my task definition first here, my service. So in order to delete my service, I have to make this 0 and update it. And then these services, I don't have any tasks. My task is 0 and delete. Okay. Now, now I don't have any service. Again, I'm creating my service. Okay. So create service. So this is my task definition, and services I want to create is 1. Task I want to create is 1. And now what I'll do is, here my health is 0. Okay. I'm creating the service. So inside this service, I have to create my task. Yeah. I got it now. So EC2 container service role is, one role is enough. Let me attach that container for EC2 Yep, this one. So let us check what it has for all resources. Yeah, what we need is get authorized token. See here in error, it was showing is not authorized to perform easy to get authorized token. This should be in our role, I mean in our policy. So that one is enough, and I'm detaching these two policies which are not required. But remember that that is the policy you have to attach. Let me ping you this so that while you are practicing you can give it. Okay, this is the policy name you have to attach to particular role. Now it should work. Okay, so now I created this view service, and yeah, now it is running and it should work now. Oh, it is still failing. So you have to click on this message so that you can see the error. Now it is stopped. So you can see complete error. Get authorized token. It is not getting the token. Yeah, sorry. Let me delete this cluster and create it again because we have done some modification, right? So I need to create this task as 0 and view services and deleting service, and I'm deleting cluster again. Okay, delete cluster. Delete cluster deletes the EC2 instance also. I'll create from the scratch again. Normally it creates auto scaling group as well because one container gets down, right? Another container will automatically um, go live. It is a little bit confusing, but it is not a big deal. It is very easy if you practice it. Okay, but try to fix any problem while you are getting, because it can be permission issue, it can be image issue, okay, connectivity issue, anything. But once you try to debug and try to fix it, then you will it will be very easy for you. So I'll open another session and create one cluster instance. Okay, if you see here in EC2, the instance got terminated. It is shutting down now and will be terminated. So I'm going to create one more cluster. My cluster name is web server 2. And I select a larger version because to avoid any problem connecting to that, I mean loading issue. So my VPC is this, and I'm choosing my subnet. So whenever I create cluster, right, each instance will be created from one um, particular cluster. So now I'm selecting my ECS role and creating this. So web server is deleted now. Now the new one is being created. If you see here and refresh, the new one is being created. Okay, it will take some time. Let's wait and then we'll create service. Okay, let me connect and see if it is already on. Okay, I got connected. EC2, this one is also running. So let me check whether it got 2.2 checks, then it will be ready. Status is still pending, initializing. Okay, let us wait for a minute. So in the meantime, please let me know if you have any doubts in AWS previous sessions, any service which we already discussed. Okay, my server is ready. Now I'm going to create a service. Okay, my task definition is this, and my cluster is this, and service name is web server. We can give any name, and number of tasks is this, and my health is 0, minimum health, and creating a task. Show service. Now we will see. Right, now it is working. My Docker image, I got my Docker image here. Okay, so if I refresh this, right, it is running. So now if I hit Docker PS, I have two instances running. One is EC2 agent and one is my HTTPD. If you see, when you check the Docker commands, we give docker-p and port mapping. Here you see Docker 80 is mapped to this, and this 12322 of host mapped to this. So in order to connect to that particular container, you have to use these ports. Okay. Now let us check one thing. Okay, this is our Docker container. Let us check whether my website is working or not, because I have my web server there in container, right? So this, and port mapping is this, but you have to allow this port first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to IAM again. IAM again, and sorry, not IAM, EC2 security groups, and for my web security group I have to allow that port. Where is my security groups? Yeah, here it is. So in my web security group, I have to allow this port. Edit, custom port. My port is 12322 from anywhere. So because I am oh sorry, not 22, it's just 80. Sorry. 80 is already there, right? 12322 is my SSH port, so I don't need that for now. So it should work with port 80, which is by default, it comes here. Yeah, it works. That means what I'm doing is I am accessing my HTML content of the web server. Okay, so I mapped 80 to 80, that is why I have not mentioned anything. If you mention any other port other than this default 80, then you have to allow that port, add that port in inbound rules of your security group. Okay, so let us check whether it is working correct or not. Docker -exec -it, and my container ID is this. I'm just connecting to my container. Okay, copy, paste, and bin bash. Oh, sorry, I have not mentioned -, here. Should not mention. Okay, now I got it. So what you have it, cd var www. So I think, yeah, this is my index.html file. Index.html, it works. Oh, no, okay. My editors are not installed in this image, that is why it is not showing. It says it works. It says it works. Nano. So editors are not available now, that is why I'm not able to edit it. But it works is written inside my Apache server. Okay, I mean image. So I'm running that image on this machine, so it is working. So likewise, you can run multiple containers on this server with different ports. Okay, let me refresh this. So it says one service running, one task running, one container running. So it is showing CPU utilization and memory utilization here. So please do practice this, and if you have any doubts, please let me know. Let me summarize what we have done so far. The prerequisites are we need to have one machine which has AWS CLI installed, and we need to have one IAM account so that we can configure their public and private keys. Secret and access keys with the CLI to connect to the AWS account. And we need to have one role which has our policy Amazon EC2 container service for EC2 role attached to that role, and Docker installed on the machine. So we will simply pull a Docker image from Docker Hub to our local machine, and we push to repository. After that, we have to create one task definition how we want to run the Docker container. Okay, again we have to create one cluster instance so that it will create one EC2 instance with Docker installed on it, and it runs Docker agent by default. After that, you have to create one service using the task definition you have already created. Then it runs a Docker container. Is that clear, or do you have any doubts? Please ask me.